Day 4 of the 5 regions face-off here on the PD's Picks podcast. If you're just joining us for the first time, where you been all week? We are doing a virtual all-star tournament of some of the best players in the real world of Michigan high school hockey. We've created 120 plus players. We've put them into the game of EA Sports NHL 25. We're simulating a virtual tournament here to see who reigns supreme in the state of Michigan for 2024-2025 season. We are 9 of 10 games through our round robin schedule. And the way the standings have unfolded, we're going to get a double dose of teams here and get right into playoff action. So we're going to play the last game of round robin action and then get into our 4 versus 5 seed matchup in playoffs. And ironically, it's the same 2 teams for both games, just the way the standings unfolded here. Let me see if I can share the updated standings with you guys. And yes, I have standings. We got stats. All of this is available on the PD or on pdspicks.com. There's a link in the description below. You guys can check it out there as well. Let me see if I can adjust this window so that you guys can see. There we go. So there's your updated standings so far through round robin action. Uh, the UP and Metro West will battle it out. The 4 and 5 seeds at the moment. At this point, basically playing for quote unquote home ice advantage come playoff time. So these 2 teams are going to play back to back. Maybe I'll even make some lineup adjustments between games here just to make things interesting on the live stream. But nonetheless, that's our matchup for today. We also got some other breaking news in Michigan high school hockey that we got to get into. If I can stop sharing my screen here. There we go. I'll get situated. I'll kind of preface kind of the news of the. There's been a lot of news this week. If you've been following along with the stream, there's been high school hockey alumni signing entry level contracts with the NHL organizations. Uh, Long tenured coaches announcing they're stepping down from their programs. It's been something every single day. The news cycle has not stopped in Michigan high school hockey, even though games have ended several weeks ago now at this point. Let me go back to split screen here. We'll start streaming these games. I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long here. We'll get this up and running. The final game in round robin action between Metro West and the Upper Peninsula. Updated the lineups a little bit. We're going to see Vinny Sabala in net for Metro West for the first time, the junior out of Heartland who had a fantastic season. We might get a chance to talk about him a little bit on this episode. And again, if you're kind of new to the stream and what we've been doing this week, again, I know it's silly, it's ridiculous. We're streaming a video game here, but it gives me an opportunity, like I've said all week, to talk about some of these players at length, and really highlight and talk about some of the seasons that they've had. Wow, there's a quick goal right out of that gate. Graham Johnson from Nolan Bink. I've talked about the Eskimos quite a bit this week on the pod. So if you missed any of that, absolutely go back and check it out throughout the streams this week. News of the day. I wanted to get right into this right out of the gate here with the stream. Some news broke yesterday on Twitter. For those of you who may have seen it, may not have. Longtime Livonia Stevenson coach and very good friend of mine, Dave Mitchell, actually announced that he was stepping down as head coach with Livonia Stevenson. He's been with that program for almost 2 decades, I think, and I was fortunate enough to be on his staff for 4 years when I first came to Metro Detroit and got to know him very well, got to know that program very well, got to basically be a fly on the wall of a very, very high level program in Michigan high school hockey. And There were rumblings all season long about this might be his last hurrah, his last push, and things like that. Um, and I just didn't wanna believe it, because I didn't wanna think about a world, uh, in Michigan high school hockey without Dave Mitchell in it, and I know, his kind of farewell letter or what have you on social media still mentioned he'd be involved, he'd still be around, still be very active and fighting the fight, so to speak, when it comes to Michigan high school hockey. I know he's got some junior hockey coaching aspirations. He's looking at so obviously not out of the hockey world by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly a guy who had his hand in everything when it came to high school hockey from fall stuff with the MDHL. Uh, he had Stevenson in the Cranbrook Fall League for a long time. Everything he did during the regular season, that included kind of establishing that the Alphabet Showcase, the KLAA MIHL Showcase in December. He was really a pioneer in setting that up and getting that off the ground. And now it's become one of the more heavily scouted events in Michigan high school hockey. He's obviously been integral in Team Michigan, which is going on right now, which he's still involved in right now, coaching the junior team. He's been involved with the Coaches Association, does a ton for the high school hockey hub and everything there. Like, there isn't an aspect of Michigan high school hockey that he wasn't involved in, and so to lose him, I think. I think his absence is very much going to be felt statewide across the board. Um, he was a bit of a polarizing guy. Uh, I know I don't wanna say rubbed some people the wrong way, but I know, he wasn't always on officials' good side. Maybe opposing coaches maybe butted heads with him or so to speak, but there's one thing you could never, question about Dave, and that was just his passion, for the game, for the kids, how much he cared. I'm talking like he's dead or something. That's not the case, obviously, but just talking about his time in high school hockey. Um, whether you were a parent and your kid played for him, you were a kid and you played for him yourself, and you thought, God, this guy is off the rails. Like, yeah, there were times he was crazy. Even he would admit was a bit much at times. But like I said, at the end of the day, you could never question his passion and his heart for the game. A guy who truly cared not just about his team and what was best for his group, but what ultimately was best for the game overall. And a guy who was willing to go to bat for anybody in the high school space. Did a lot for kids statewide across the board. I remember one year when I was loosely involved with Team Michigan one year. And he had been with the junior team, the HP 18s there for a couple of years. And at one point, we were talking about plans and what we were going to do with this group and, super talented bunch. And he said, we're going to go 20 for 20. And we all were kind of like, what are you talking about? He said, we're going to move all 20 of these guys on to the next level. We're going to get them junior opportunities. We're going to move them on to main camps and get them tenders and all this. And like, he was very ambitious with his goals and gave it everything he had in pursuit of that. Like, that's one thing you can never question about that guy. So for high school hockey to kind of lose that guy, not have him involved on a daily basis and involved in some of the programs and organizations that go on within our sport, we're gonna miss that guy big time, whether we know it or not. His absence is certainly going to be felt for sure. So you factor that news in, obviously, with the news of Rick Gadwa yesterday, 2 days ago. There is so much offense going on in this game, and I'm rambling on about coaches, but Brody Lemire there on the back end. I haven't gotten a chance to talk about him yet. Uh, Smooth defenseman there on the back end for Marquette. Marquette, their style of play, I feel like, is super smothering, and the offense, the forwards tend to take a lot of the attention there uh, up front when you got guys like Brody Sheldon. Seth Sandstrom, obviously my guy. Easton Ball, Evan or Ethan Matilla. The forwards up front were super imposing, super talented, and kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? They were the force there on that team, and I feel like the defensive unit, at least for me, anyways, as I'm watching, I get so in awe of the way they roll four lines and a constant checking and fortune in your face type mentality that your defense or that defensive group. Uh, I kind of overlooked them a little bit, but when you really focused in on and watched a guy like Lemire, you saw a really good, effective, smooth puck moving defenseman that really limited mistakes. Didn't overexpose himself or get himself into trouble by being out of position or bad pinches or stepping up instead of maintaining a good gap. He's really sound defensively. So gotta appreciate that about his game. But just to circle back here, Brady Damien. Offense galore here in the final game of the round robin. Kyle Lynch getting involved. You got two Clarkston kids linking up. Trey Damien, uh, a super offensive guy. This type of play is way up in his wheelhouse there to get the puck on the blue, walk it, try to find a guy. Trey Damien, just an offensive threat there for Clarkston on the back end. And then I've talked about Kyle Lynch quite a bit this week as well. Just a full 200-foot game and whatnot. So, just to finish my thought there on the coaches, we let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Um, but it would have been a pretty significant loss to see a guy like Rick Gadwell walk away from Michigan high school hockey, but then to basically double down and lose a guy like Dave Mitchell too is not an easy pill for a guy like me to swallow. I got to be honest with you. I felt a little sick to my stomach knowing that those two are on their way out. Obviously, ecstatic for those two and what the future may hold for both of them. But selfishly, like I said, all season I was kind of hoping maybe if I just buried my head in the sand long enough that the Dave Mitchell news wouldn't be true and he'd come back for another season. So okay. And far from the only departures this season, I know Gross Eels head coach, a guy who had been there for a couple of years now too. I don't know him personally. Didn't know him super well. Is it Durbin? I think. Um, but a guy who, my understanding, anyways, had obviously been with the program for an extended period of time. Was a high school hockey player in his own right. So a guy who kind of got the space, got the high school hockey environment and really understood it, from a grassroots level, being a former player and everything there too. So, um, those 3 obviously won't be the only ones either. I'm sure the coaching turnover will continue. But man, I don't remember an offseason like this where we've lost so many impactful coaches, obviously in such a short amount of time too. Uh, Alex Kozar here for Metro West, a guy um, out of Milford that actually made a point to watch him kind of early in the season. At one point he was leading the state in goals, and I think points at one point. If you go back to like November, early December timeframe, where he had like 20 goals in 6 games or something absurd like that. So I wanted to get eyes on him, and I parachuted in on the Milford Caledonia game. I talked about this game uh, a stream or two ago as we'd been working our way through round robin action, but I was more from a Caledonia standpoint. So Milford, I liked Kozar in what I saw there. He was a big kid, strong kid. When I was when I was creating players here and plugging in measurables and things like that, was a big kid too. Let me see. I'll pull up his measurables real quick. If my computer's gonna cooperate. Um, where is he? 6'1", 175. Like that's a big kid at this level, and looked big on film. And was a work hard, super high motor. A lot of times You know, people will reach out to me, or you'll see the heavy stat lines on the Hockey Hub, and you'll watch some of these guys, and they're floaters, and they're cherry picking, and they produce at a high clip, but it's because their line mates are working their bag off to to get them the puck, and then they strike quick with a quick snapshot or something like that. And that was what I was expecting when I watched Milford, just kind of those preconceived notions that I was talking about. But that was not the case at all with Kozar. Kozar was a high motor guy. He was working on the forecheck, super impactful. In that game against Caledonia, and I think I said this earlier in the year, there were times when he looked like the best forward on the ice in that game, and there were some top forwards on the ice there for both teams with Tony Kaufman, obviously a high profile name there out of Caledonia. Um, Simon, another one. Lewandowski, another one. Harmon Esch, another talented forward there for Caledonia. And Kozar was every bit as talented and effective as those guys were. Um, so, when we talk about some of the quote unquote small market teams, or smaller programs, your non-traditional, non-blue blood programs, to see a guy like Kozar be that impactful, I was convinced and sold pretty quickly. Like, it doesn't matter what team this kid's on, he's going to be an effective high school player. So I'm assuming a multi-sport guy. I think he, might have been a football player there too, or whatnot. But he could be a tier three type junior hockey player at the next level if he wanted to pursue junior opportunities, or maybe some ACHA type hockey there at some point. But nonetheless, just a kid that I definitely wanted to touch on. I'm glad I got an opportunity to mention him here in the five regions face off stream, because he was a kid that, like I said, not from a call it a non-traditional. That's not the right word. I don't, your non-power five, your non-top 25 type teams in the state that he was super talented and liked his game a lot. And there was actually, I'll pull up Milford real quick, because they kind of had a bit of a Twin Towers thing going uh, between Alex Kozar and Craig Borges. Borges has a nice skill set too. I think he's just a junior. So maybe we can, yeah, just a junior. So maybe we get another opportunity to see him in action next winter. But those were the two top players there from Milford. When I watched them, I think I watched the Caledonia game, and then I might have checked in on another game at some point throughout the season. And I was kind of fascinated by it because a lot of teams like that would have put Kozar and Borges on the same line, and let your top guys do their thing, right? Go out, dump the pucks out, let them play hockey, and be creative and generate some offense. But Kozar centered one line, Borges centered another line, and I thought it actually worked for the Mavericks. The regular season, what were they overall? Yeah, 6, 17, and 1. So I mean, not ideal, um, but like I said, for that kind of setup and dynamic, obviously not the deepest team, maybe a little short staffed there, but you make do with what you got, and I thought those two were really impactful forwards, regardless of who they play for. And to have them on two separate lines, I thought was kind of a unique strategy, unique approach, because I feel like a lot of other coaches in that situation might have put them on the same line, and not that it would have, produced different results necessarily, but like I said, I was just like, "Oh, okay, this is different," and it was working, like I said. Um, so yeah, we'll wrap things up there on Milford. Here we go. Damien again, just making plays today. Except down 4-2, whole ton of offense here out of the gate. This might be is this the highest scoring game of the tournament so far? Let me pull up the Tevin Stukel, my guy right there with the white cage. Tevin Stukel from Kennedy, Turner getting involved. Let's see. No, we had an 8-goal game between, oddly enough, Metro East here, or not Metro East, and the UP was involved in that one as well. But What are we looking at here? That makes it 5-2? 5-2. I'm gonna have to make some lineup changes here for Metro West between games as before we get into to playoffs and start eliminating teams. Nolan Kaminsky, I might have to put him and Chapit together. We'll get the Salem boys together. Let me pull up this roster. I'll start making some changes now so I can be ready to go when this game ends. What do we got? We'll put Kaminsky and Chapit together. Who else? Maybe we put Sui and Sainin together. We'll put the CC guys. Who else? Julian Johnston is in the lineup right now. That's good. On the back end, maybe we got to shuffle some things up. I don't know. I liked these defensive pairs with Bloink and Patilla. Solid. Uh, your two Northville guys, Alex McCollum, Isaac Nelson. Solid. Um, so, man, if this was a real life lineup, I don't know what changes you make, man. This is a Metro West, in my opinion, would have been the strongest of the bunch. Here we are in the virtual world, and they're about to be last place. So, this is the way it goes. This is the way it goes. Again, if you're following along, feel free to drop a comment or question in the chat here. Happy to talk about that as well. Any big takeaways, any strong opinions here from the Michigan high school hockey season? Happy to talk about it. And connect with me on social media too. Oh, there's a big rebound and a follow up. Ian Castamo, arguably your best player in Michigan high school hockey this season. He is a high level prospect moving forward. I know he's tendered in the North American League. I forget the team specifically. Maybe I can, if I sift through Heartland's Twitter account real quick, I might be able to pull it up. I'm just blanking on the club. Let's see if I can get it right. Here we go. El Paso Rhinos. Okay. I know was it the NA3 El Paso Rhinos was a pretty popular destination for a lot of high school hockey kids there for a little stretch. El Paso, I think that's also where Nick Justice out of Livonia Stevenson landed for a season. El Paso actually been a pretty popular destination for Michigan high school hockey guys. That was another goal there from Metro West, cutting into the deficit a little bit, making it interesting. Not done yet. Owen Hall snapping one off there. Um, I probably need to do a little bit more junior talking. It's going to be tough here. I think this season, maybe next season too, just because the landscape is changing so much with NIL, with CHL guys being eligible now to play college hockey. Um, the OHL is obviously more of a. It was already heavily scouted. Don't get me wrong, but from a college hockey standpoint, it's now kind of new territory for a lot of programs that are now scouting. Whereas they were watching the NA and the USHL, they're now heavily invested in the O, which the O and the W and across Canada. But because of that, then obviously the destinations shift for a lot of players who are looking to go play college hockey. Now they're looking into going to the O as opposed to the North American League or the USHL and things like that. So the landscape is changing so much as we speak and will continue to change here for the next couple months, maybe even couple seasons, that I think it's going to be a little bit hard to kind of pinpoint trends and really provide a for me anyways, for me to provide you with a bit of a pathway on what some of the more viable options are, especially for kids out of Michigan high school hockey. Because the O traditionally has not been a common path for high school hockey kids. I know Brooks Rogowski is there right now, but um, he made that jump after being selected in the priority select. It's called the priority section, the OHL entry draft, basically. Um, and that does not happen very often for high school kids. There's only been maybe half a dozen in the last decade or so. And I think maybe 2 or 3 ended up actually making it and playing games in the O. So it traditionally has not been a popular path. I think that could change in the coming years. I think you could start to see more OHL scouts taking a look at Michigan high school hockey and scouting games and things like that. And you could see a little bit of an uptick of high school guys going to the O. Um, but we just haven't seen enough of it to draw any major conclusions, I don't think yet. So um, definitely interesting, definitely intrigued, though, obviously, as that landscape has changed in the last 12 months. Julian Johnston, I just mentioned him there at Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I thought he was kind of the tip of the spear for them offensively. That was a very balanced team. Um, that I don't want to say it lacked star power because that's not the right term, but there was such an evenly balanced team. You know, the drop off from their first line to the fourth line was minimal. And there's really only, them, Catholic Central, Marquette, but on a slightly different scale. There's only maybe half a dozen teams who you could say that about that would run 4 lines with very little drop off from one to the next. Um, but as even keeled across the board as Orchard Lake was, I did think Johnston was a bit of a standout on that team, just with his skill set and ability there. Putting together this UP team, there was only 10 or 11 programs in the UP. But if you look at this roster, like, oh, Castamo's second goal there ties it up. Not dead yet. How about that? That's big. Battling for home ice here in the playoffs. Big goal. Uh, but the UP easily the smallest sample size or whatever you want to call it to draw players from when I put these 5 regions together. You only got 10 teams to pick players from. But man, even looking at this roster, I have no doubt in my mind they would absolutely compete given the top guys at their disposal, if that's what you want to call it, uh, for an all UP team. Looking at some of these names with, Stukel, Sheldon, Graham Johnson, Arco, DeForge, Nick Wood. Ooh, there's a little bleeder. That's awfully ugly, but they don't ask how, they ask how many. Big goal. Lemire, Bink, Stukel there. I can't break that lineup. Nick Wood, Kennedy, Stukel with a pair of Blue Devils on either side and Kennedy and Wood. I love the way Sault Ste. Marie plays. The last couple of years that I've gotten to see them at the MIHL showcase in particular, man, I mean, a lot of UP teams play hard, play fast, play aggressive, and they do too. But man, the Sioux, man, they just seem bigger, meaner, maybe a little bit tougher. It's certainly not as pretty, Uh, Marquette, or not Marquette, excuse me. Houghton can really flash some pretty plays, some nifty plays, and things like that. Um, Calumet in the last couple of years, Hancock and yeah, Marquette to a degree too, can flash some of those high level pretty plays. You don't get as much of that with the Sioux, but you just get some big, mean offensive lineman type that just go to work on the forecheck and heavy against the wall. It's just mean to play against. 36 seconds left here. Can we make it interesting? Little drama here from Metro West. Can we get it done? I think that was Ian Evans on the draw. Little poke check there, 50-50 puck. Get on it, boys. Forces the turnover. Luke Storm. Oh, shot blocked. That'll just a dagger. Oh no, turnover. Heinonen gonna ice the game right here with 20 seconds. Patilla to Bloink, Bloink to Evans. Come on, get a chance. 10 seconds. Oh, blocked again. UP just putting their bodies on the line here. Ugly rebound, nobody home. That's gonna do it. All right, let me update these standings. UP with home ice advantage in the 4-5 matchup in the playoffs. We're gonna run it back here. So bear with me as I update everything on my end. Oh shoot, that win actually puts we are not gonna have a rematch. I was I was out to lunch, I guess. The UP with that win, that pushes them all the way into second. So it'll be Metro East versus Metro West in your 4-5 matchup now. How about that? Tevin Stukel, a goal and 2 assists at a baby. All right, let's wrap this up. All right, well, good. I was worried I was going to have to um, go back to back games with the same two teams. That would not have been fun for anybody. So let me edit these lines real quick. We'll take a look at Metro West. I think we got to get. I think we got to get Henry Lansky here back between the pipes for Metro West. He's played 2 games, 61 saves in those two. We got to go back to your Wall Award winner. We'll get him back in the mix. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. We'll do that. Let's go defensively. Do we want to make any changes here? Kraut, Damien. I think we'll hold there. But man, they're not getting nothing done. Maybe we gotta let's just shuffle it up here. Let's just see what happens. Gotta change something because whatever we got ain't working. Kaminsky, we'll put the Salem boys together. We already got the Howell boys together. What do we do here? I'm stumped. What are our options? What are our options? I think I got to go back to Suey. He had a goal here earlier in the tournament, right? Where's the stats? Oh no, he's empty here. All right, we'll get Suey and Sainin together. Wyatt Evans. We're gonna move Ian Evans up. See if that rattles any cages and gets the boys going. We'll call that good. Let me update Metro East real quick. What do we want to do from a strategy standpoint? Let's hear. We're probably between Blake Tice, who pitched a shutout, and Evan Civi, who gave up 2 goals in his one start. Why don't we go back to Tice? I mean, how can you fault a guy who hasn't given one up? We'll stick with the junior. Lineup wise, who am I missing? We probably got it. Okay, Zach Del Monte's in the mix. He's got 2 points in 2 games. Maybe we even bump him up. We'll do that. We'll move him up a line. Oops. Forwards, what do we want to do here? All right, we'll roll with this. We're good to go. All right, let's get this game off the ground here. Let's get going. So, who's home? Which side's home? Which side's away here? This side's home. So, your 4 seed. I just did this. Metro East and Metro West for the second time. These two, well, obviously it's the second time they're meeting. It's the playoffs. Duh, PD. Sick unis. God, I love these. All right, let's go. Let's go. So previous matchup with these two teams. Let me pull that up. We'll look back. Metro East and Metro West. It was a 3-0 shutout for Metro East. Yeah, you gotta go with Blake Tice then. He already shut this team out once. You gotta go back to the well on something like that. Let me see if I can give you guys a bit of a step here. I'll give you. Can I drag this in? Is it gonna let me? Here you go. Here's your updated bracket, courtesy of Google Docs. Your updated bracket there. Let me get you stats. Is this? No, that's the wrong thing. I need top scorers. You can check out top scorers of the tournament. Drew Zrimick out of Traverse City Central leading the way, 5 points. As I'll try to get that out of the way as the game is going on here. What is it? 84 skaters, and I think 45 of them have points in this thing. 47 have points, not counting today's action. So makes it fun, makes it interesting. A little drama there. A lot of people getting involved. It gives me an opportunity to talk about everybody. As I'm looking at, let me see if I can look at some of these rosters. Who haven't I talked about here? I don't know. I think I have touched on every single player on Metro East. We've talked about everybody on Metro West this week. So I know this is some unique content here, not your typical PD's Picks pods, but with the live streams and everything, and you can take it with a grain of salt, I suppose. Maybe you like the live stream, maybe you don't, but the commentary is all there. And we've gotten an opportunity to talk about. There's 120 players. I think I've talked about just about everybody so far through the first 3.5 streams we've done this week. Um, so it's been fun. It's kind of put me on the spot a little bit, not knowing where the virtual game was going to go and who I was going to end up talking about. So I don't think I have a future as a caller commentator. That's for sure. I tend to ramble here and be a little long-winded and stuff. There's goals and all sorts of shit happening in the game that I'm completely missing because I'm talking about Dave Mitchell for 10 minutes. So uh, having fun with it though. Hopefully, like I said, I got some good feedback from people on social media. And if you want to reach out to me, obviously, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is there for you. Feel free to reach out. Always happy to talk hockey and appreciate any feedback. Love it, hate it. Nah, it's not gonna hurt my feelings one bit. Uh, put in a ton of work into this. It was a lot, kind of creating players, doing that, kind of getting everything the way I wanted it. But um, it might be a one and done type thing. I don't know if I'll do this again. This isn't like the top 100 or the all junior and all senior teams that I do at the end of the year, or bracketology or things like that. We'll see. Guess it depends on where you guys are at with it. I still, someone did ask on Instagram about about these rosters because obviously NHL injury there. Who was that? Oh, I missed McNamara out of the game. It's a big loss. Metro East down to 11 forwards. We're gonna have to call somebody up for playoffs. I have to go to the well. Who can I call up from Metro East? I'll take recommendations. I'll open it up to the chat if anyone wants to recommend a player from the Metro East region. We can slot them into the lineup here. Should Metro East advance here in this 4-5 matchup? But yeah, I don't know if this 5 regions face off is going to work its way into the PD's picks regular annual cadence of content. Top 100, that's kind of a recurring thing. I don't see that going anywhere. The bracketology and some of that stuff, that's not going anywhere. Oh my god, that's the goal. That's kinda garbage, but doesn't have to be pretty. Nick Timko, he's had nice little virtual tournament here. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Second goal of the virtual tournament. Um, got an opportunity to talk about him quite a bit earlier this week. 23 goals, 43 points. That was massively improved upon from his junior season last year when Cranbrook won the D3 state title. Obviously, make a push. They return to the state finals this winter and come up just a little bit short there against Orchard Lake. But Nick Timko, even last year, he had 24 points in the regular season, then 11 points in their state championship run last season. And I thought that playoff push was really when he came into his own uh, and really hit his stride and kind of established himself as a prominent Michigan high school hockey player. Just looked fantastic. That was really the first time he really caught my attention and was at the state semis and finals. Just a complete player, well-rounded game, 200 foot, well responsible, very responsible center who's always on the right side of the puck. And oh, by the way, he's super skilled too. Nice puck skills, good quick shot, can create space and create opportunities for himself. Just a very well-rounded skill set that not a lot of people have. Um, who we got here? Grayson Heiser, Blackwood, House, Alex Kozar again, Wyatt Emmett. Oh, right off the draw? Ty Kraut and the yellow laces getting it done here, tying it up. Alright, here we go. Ty Kraut might be one of the more underrated defensemen in Michigan high school hockey this season. Talking with the MHA guys back in the fall, they couldn't say enough good things about him and just how impactful he was on the game. Um, and so after that little tidbit, and I spent some time kind of highlighting Kraut's game back in August, September. We did a little bit of a film study. If you guys go back and check out the pod, um, I pulled some clips from MHA's games at I think the Grand Rapids class kickoff, and his gap control really stood out to me. His defensive ability through the neutral zone and playing guys one on one. That's something that the average hockey fan, your typical person sitting up in the stands, doesn't doesn't always notice or doesn't resonate or stand out to you as you're watching them in action. A lot of people obviously resonate with goals or the big 100-foot pass that springs a guy on a breakaway or something. The crazy slap you in the face type offensive plays, and that's not really Ty Kraut's game. Who's this? Charlie Price, my guy with the bubble. Gotta love it. Um, that wasn't Ty Kraut's style, but like, my God, you need a guy like Ty Kraut in your lineup because of the way uh, how how tough he is defensively, to play against, opposing forwards. That's a tough guy to get around, to solve on the fly as you're coming up through the neutral zone. If you even get going, he was a guy who, watching him on film, he's able to negate a lot of rushes before they ever even get started because of his gap control and his ability to play on top and play tight in all three zones. One thing I loved about him too was the way he kind of collapses the offensive zone and really shrinks it down, and that makes it really hard for opposing forwards and opposing teams to break out when you're going D to D behind the net, and you go to move the puck up to the winger, and Kraut is already there, collapsing on that winger on the half wall and taking away that option. A lot of times you see defensemen just kind of drifting or hanging out around the blue line or even bailing on the offensive zone early. That's not Kraut. Kraut is very tough defensively, and like I said, staying on top of the play at all times. I love that about his game. And if you're looking at guys at the next level, uh, those types of attributes in your game, that's tough to coach when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. So the fact that he's kind of got that as a staple in his game, I think really sets him up for success uh, beyond high school hockey. Storm, Sainin, Sui, Cavadio, Timko, and House on the ice here. Leighton Nayer out of St. Clair Shores Unified, or not? Sorry, he's an Ike kid. I was thinking St. Clair Shores because of Del Monte, who I think I have him paired with here. Is that who's got the puck there? I can't tell. Um, hadn't really gotten much of a chance to talk about SCS Unified yet. Del Monte was a guy who really stood out to me a bunch at MDHL, specifically tryouts, and liked what he brought to the table. Wasn't like a tournament team guy for the MDHL or anything like that, but I thought he really benefited from playing in the MD and playing against that top level competition in Michigan high school hockey. I thought that served him well, and for a guy who was a junior this year to have that opportunity to come back next year in the fall and continue to grow and develop as a player. Big opportunity there. There he is with the puck. There we go. All I had to do was talk about him, and then he's getting the puck here. Um, but that St. Clair Shores team, they've got some pieces, and I think some guys that are going to be there for a little while. Del Monte being one of them. Let me pull up their roster real quick because that top line. I watched St. Clair Shores maybe halfway through the season. Cavadio there. Wow, Metro East is just going to bury Metro West again. What's this, 3-1 now? Anyways, uh, SCS Unified, I got a chance to watch them, and that top line was pretty intriguing. Gavin McKee, Caden Gersh, Isaiah Pecora. Pecora was one I liked maybe the most out of the bunch just because of his motor, high energy. I think he was playing center on that line, and was pretty engaged in all 3 zones and doing a nice job on the forecheck, initiating breakouts, pretty responsible positionally. He's a junior, you could get him back. I mentioned Del Monte, obviously, who's in the lineup here as we're watching. McKee and Gersh, I'm not positive on. McKee is a junior, okay. Um, I'll check out Gersh here. Gersh is a junior. Okay, so you got your entire top line potentially coming back, and Del Monte. Let me pull this up real quick. Okay, okay, all right. I finally finally found a senior, someone who's on their way out. I was like, God, is everybody coming back on this Lakers team? Um, Will Young in net. He's a junior. Jesus, there's a ton of juniors here for the Lakers. Um, Will Young was really good in the MD, I thought. And then, this season didn't quite go, I think, the way he was hoping or the way uh, SCS was hoping. A 4.6 goals against, an 8.76 save percentage. Maybe not ideal, but overall, what am I looking at? 15-10 record there for the Lakers. And like I said, you've got some cornerstone guys that you could keep around for another year. So I think there's a ton of potential there to continue making improvements. You get, the process when it comes to like the MDHL and MHA, and I try to tell people this is that like it's a process. You're gonna send Ty Kraut, big strike there. Is that his second goal there? There you go, second of the night. I try to tell people this that it's a process. You're gonna send a guy and he's gonna get cut. And then the next year you're gonna send 2 guys and they're both gonna get cut. And then the next year you're gonna send 4 or 5 guys and one of them makes it. And then the next year 2 guys make it. The next year everybody makes it. It's very much a 3, 4, 5 year process when you talk about um, integrating or getting guys into programs like the MDHL and MHA and Team Michigan even. And that's why just making Team Michigan Festival and getting to the weekend is an accomplishment in and of itself. Um, so it's very much a process, and I see the progress that a program like St. Clair Shores is making when you get a guy like Del Monte and a guy like Will Young both into the MDHL. I think Will Young was a tournament team guy for him last fall. So you're starting to get guys in, you're starting to get guys on tournament teams. Those are all building blocks on your way to a successful program, and that obviously trickles into your winter team success. So love that for the Lakers. Would love to see more of it. Next year and beyond, obviously, and from other programs around the state. I'd be the first one to tell you that the Metro East, the East region of the state, is not very well represented at things like MDHL and MHA, and I feel like that's got to change. Some of your big name guys, Bodie Farr, Nick Gould, um, Gary Stacy was another guy. I think he's a senior this year, so he's on his way out. But um, why aren't those types of guys doing some of our top programs in Michigan high school hockey? That needs to change. And I'm not saying that's not on the players, that's not on the organizations themselves. It's a combination of everybody, right? So it's just a huge area of opportunity there, I think, in the state to get more of those guys involved in things like Team Michigan in the spring and things like that. Um, It's not carte blanche. It doesn't give you a free pass just 'cause I wanna get you in there or anything. You obviously gotta, earn it, and it's gotta be on merit, but, it was good to see, like, I think Eisenhower's goalie, Holmes, was at Team Michigan tryouts and made it to the festival. That's a huge accomplishment for a program like Ike. So, I think the wheels are turning there. I think some programs are starting to make some strides. Cam Staskowski out of Chippewa Valley, he was at Team Michigan Fest. So you're starting to see it trickle in a little bit, but it kind of goes back to my statement I made earlier this week about getting like Sault Ste. Marie guys on to junior hockey. There's a ton of talent there in the Sioux. What do we got to do to get those guys to the next level? In the same breath, something that I think would make high school hockey better is let's get these East Side guys involved in some of these other spring, summer, fall programs. So 4-2 game here. I'm afraid this one might be out of reach. Charlie Price, Donovan Durbin, he's been pretty quiet in this tournament, which I do not think would be the case in real life. Durbin is a pretty dangerous goal scorer there. Be curious to see what the future holds for him in the next 12 months or so. He could really elevate himself as a top prospect in Michigan high school hockey. I mean, he already would probably be in that mix, right? Considering the season he had, but um, next season to really kind of solidify or cement himself as a top prospect in our sport, I think the opportunity is absolutely there. Under 10 to go. Something's got to happen. Cavadio, Timko, House. This has been a big line there for Metro East. Luke Storm, Peter Sainin, Nino Sui on the other end. God, that would be an awesome line to have. That would have been very timely had Zach Del Monte scored there on that sequence. Peter Sainin is a guy who, I was talking about my uh, season end awards that I put out. If NHL awards were handed out to Michigan high school hockey players. And I got Sainin was a guy who was on my short list for the Selkie as best the forward who excels in the defensive aspects of the game. I had a couple people, uh, that was a name that was the first one out of their mouths when I started asking them about, like, who do you kind of have as the best defensive forward in the state? Sainin was one of those guys a lot of people were mentioning and talking about as being that guy. And, you know, being great defensively, like I said, is not always the sexy thing and what people take notice in the stand. The average person takes notice in the stands, but uh, being good defensively can take you a long way. Looking at last year's quote unquote recipient of the Selke Trophy was a guy by the name of Charlie Birchfield out of Brighton. So if you want to like start drawing comparisons on that, Birchfield to me is a bit of a one of one. I don't know that there was a Birchfield in high school hockey this season. But Josh Hooper was the guy I went with for this last season. A fantastic defensive two-way, 200-foot forward. Um, and then obviously Sainin kind of in that mix as well. But to be kind of mentioned or compared to, or just kind of mentioned in the same breath as a guy like Charlie Birchfield, I mean, that's a guy who was playing in the NA this past season and playing at a pretty high level. He was with Aberdeen, split time between Aberdeen and the Northeast Generals, but played 35 games, racked up a ton of penalty minutes, which does not surprise me. What am I looking at here? 68? No, what is that? Yeah, 68 penalty minutes. Um, but not surprising to me. A guy like Charlie Birchfield is hard to play against, not fun to line up across from. A bit of a shit stirrer, but those are the types of guys you need at the next level. So there's absolutely a spot in your lineup for a guy like Birchfield. Um, Guys like Sainin and Hooper this year, they did nobody had the type of sandpaper that a guy like Birchfield brought to the table as a high school senior last year. I don't think anybody in high school hockey this year was equivalent to that. But in terms of being a solid defensive forward and being able to shut down opposing lines and things like that, I do think there was some shade, some resemblance there to what Birchfield provided to Brighton's lineup last year. So 5-3 game snoozer. Wow, Metro West going to be on their way out here. Who would have thought that would have been? And I think I even said this on day one of these streams that Metro West in reality would have been uh, my pick to win this whole thing. Had this been a real life tournament, when you look at this lineup um, on their way out the door, Nolan Kaminsky, your Mr. Hockey recipient, Ian Castamo, your player of the year from state champs, Henry Lansky, your Wall Award winner, um, Justin Bloink, Chad Patilla. There's your dream teamers, right? Luke Storm, maybe your top junior in Michigan high school hockey right now, him or Patilla, I guess, and they're both on the same team. So this Metro West team, I know they're going to get bounced here with this 6-3 loss, but Metro West, I think in reality, probably might have been your front runner for this hypothetical tournament. Adam Morrison, not the power forward from Gonzaga. I don't even know how many people watching this would get that reference, but uh, it is March Madness. It is college, the college basketball tournament. Adam Morrison was the face of the tournament there for a couple of years. So, wow, what a rip. All right. So, if we advance Metro East on, let me go back to this playoff bracket. Update this as we go. You got Metro West or Metro East, excuse me. is going to advance to the semis. We're going to do the semis on tomorrow's stream. We'll do both semis and the championship game tomorrow, and we'll put a bow on this whole five regions face off experiment for sure. But next on the next stream, let me pull this back into the window just so you can see what I'm working with here. You'll have the West and Metro East in your 1 versus 4 matchup, and then you'll have the UP versus the North in a second rendition of who's the king of the North between the North region and the UP. So there's your matchups for the semifinals tomorrow. We will get into that tomorrow afternoon. So let me. Can I close out of this? There we go. With all that out of the way, we got round robin completed. We got the play-in game completed. We are down to the final four, and we will conclude that on tomorrow's stream. So, like and subscribe if you've made it this far. That way, you get notified when we go live tomorrow, and you can check out that stream as we wrap this little experiment up. So, till then, skate hard, have fun, see ya.